Mr. Powers, my job is to acclimatize you to the 90s. You know, a lot's changed since 1967.
No doubt, though. But as long as people are still having promiscuous sex with many anonymous partners without protection, while at the same time experimenting with mind-expanding drugs in a consequence-free environment, I'll be sound as a pound.
Hey guys, I'm back again. So there's a few things I want to do today. First thing is change my oil. I think it's only been a couple 100 miles, but I figured I might as well change it now since it's really just been sitting for a really long time. I have new gaskets there that I'm going to replace, and I also bought a new strainer. We don't really have to change this too often. Really, I just have to clean out the one that I have now with like some brake cleaner or something. And if there's no major damage to the strainer, then I'm just going to keep this one in my extra parts bin and go ahead and replace it with those gaskets there. If I have time, maybe I'll go ahead and replace the driver's side rear axle boot. This should pretty much remedy my transmission leak. So once I get this put on, I will need to top off my transmission. I'm gonna go ahead and install this car power switch here. And how this works is you basically splice this into the ground strap to the negative terminal on your battery. And once you have that wired up, you can use these key fobs here, and with the press of a button will kill all power going from the battery to the car. So it kind of acts as if it's like a kill switch, but like a remote one. And I plan on keeping this under the rear seat too. So let's go ahead and get started. Perfect. This is pretty much all you need for an oil change. With mine on the underside of this engine, there's a little circle metal plate. Right in the middle is the drain plug. I have a replacement magnetic aftermarket drain plug on mine, so the size on yours may differ, but mine is a 22, and I have a 10 here for the remaining hardware on the circumference of that plate. I don't think you really need an extension, but I'm going to use it just to make my life easier. Here we are underneath. This is the 22mm magnetic drain plug here. I've already broke torque on it, so I'm just going to do the rest by hand. I'm gonna go ahead and let that drain for a little bit. This is the magnetic drain plug here. You can see all the metal that it captured, which is why it's highly recommended to get one of these magnetic ones. Here's that magnetic drain plug all cleaned up. It comes with this rubber gasket thing. It's pretty cracked and dry. I wonder if this copper crush washer here is okay to replace on this guy. Let's see if it even fits. Yeah, I guess. Maybe I'll put some Teflon around this too, just to be sure, because I don't think that's gonna be doing any good. It's really torn and melted. With the rest of that oil coming down, I'm gonna go and start cranking these out. Sometimes you have to get a pick so that you can take off this washer here. And the new kit comes with a replacement one, so you don't have to worry about damaging those washers. It's hard to see, but on this plate here, you'll see one of the gaskets that's stuck to this plate. So make sure to remove this, completely clean this off before reapplying it. Here we can peel this off too. And again, on top of this strainer, there's another gasket, paper gasket underneath. Just make sure to not gouge the block. There's the paper gasket and the strainer. Here's a better view of the strainer here. Like I said, this is pretty much replaceable every time you do an oil change. The only thing you want to make sure there's no severe damage to the strainer. It looks like it's just oily and dirty, so I'm good to go ahead and reuse this one. So I'll just clean this up, clean up this plate as well, rip off the paper gaskets, and then replace it with the brand new ones. And I should be good to reapply it back onto the block once the block is done draining. Okay, I have the strainer and this pan cleaned up. You can see here I put oil Teflon tape on that drain bolt thing, so that shouldn't leak. And then I also put the crush washer there. I'm gonna throw everything together and put some oil. I think it takes like 2.5 quarts. Okay, I have everything all torqued down appropriately. You don't really have to go super tight on these ones. I think they really only go about like 5 foot-pounds or something. This middle one here, I forget what the value is, but I just snug it up. Okay, with that now out of the way, I want to move on over to this boot. So I need to remove all this janky duct tape stuff that somebody put on there. I think some oil is going to be leaking a little bit, so I put this oil pan here, and it should be a pretty straightforward replacement. Okay, on this boot, let me see if I can show you on the top of it. Basically, on the top, you'll see here there's 6 nuts, and on the other side there's 6 screws. Those are the ones that need to be removed, and once it's taken off, this boot should just pry open. Oh, also these clamps right here on the side, these need to come off. One here, and I think one on the inside also. Then the boot should be able to come off. Here's the new boot. There's hardware in there. Cool, so I don't have to worry about the ones that I just took off. So I'll put those to the side and remove the remaining 5. Here we have all the hardware out. And here up top you can barely see that I have them all removed from the boot. On top of those 6 screws and nut, this bigger one is for the inner side closest to the transmission, and the smaller one goes out here. This boot, I should be able to just split it open, and once I do, there may be oil that's going to drip down. So again, I have my oil pan here, and we'll see how it goes right now as I try to split it open. There we go. And it doesn't seem like there's a lot coming out. I think maybe it's just been leaking for a while, that the transmission fluid's already so low. So once I get this replaced in, I definitely need to top off the fluid in there. Let's take a look at the damage here. This was the puncture right there where you can see my finger bursting through it, right there. And that's definitely where it's leaking from. Here's the boot. Whoa, why don't these have, oh, so they do have the holes, but I have to actually puncture through them. See these right here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Same thing on the other side. It doesn't go all the way through, so I just have to poke through them and then stab it through with the hardware. Okay, poking holes through this isn't even too bad. I'm just using my pick. So just shove it in there. I actually don't know if I'm doing this backwards or the correct way, but I figured it's easier for me to put my right hand through whatever space I have available to put the screwdriver here, and then my left hand to put the nuts here. So that's the way I'm doing it. Unless if you're supposed to put the screws in this way, I don't know, maybe for like aerodynamics or something. I have no idea, but I don't know. If it leaks, it leaks. If not, then whatever. Now I'm gonna slip this in here. And basically I'm making sure this part of the rubber goes over the lip that you see here on the transmission. Maybe if I do this, get them kind of lined up first. Okay, I have all 6 of these threaded on, but not tight whatsoever. So it still has some room to expand. So I'm gonna shove this back up there again. Hopefully it goes onto that lip. All right. You also want to make sure that that split is nowhere near the bottom, because if it is, it's just gonna leak. I've heard people pointing it straight up, which is what I did before, but I was also told to maybe clock it a little bit backwards. And I can see the added benefit of that, because over here it makes it easier for me to reach in and put the screwdriver in. But I don't know, I think just to make it consistent with the other side, I'll just maybe put it back up again. I don't know. Oh well, just do whatever feels right. Maybe I'm doing this wrong completely, who knows. Oh well. So I'm not gonna tighten those up there yet. I'm gonna put this clamp. Actually, I have the brand new ones. I mean, these are in good shape already. I don't know if I should bother replacing it with the brand new ones. I think I'm just gonna keep the original ones on here. Okay, both of these clamps on the inside and outside are tight. Everything seems to have lined up properly, so I'm gonna go ahead and tighten all the hardware on the top, and we should be pretty good on that. Here we go, we got everything all buttoned up now. And the last thing I really have to do is just top off the transmission fluid. So I have this thing here. Let me see what size it is. It's a 17 millimeter connected to a 1/2 inch ratcheting wrench. And the fill plug is here on the driver's side of the transmission. So you have to fit this with that extension up here. So I'm just gonna let that hang there. And I have here some transmission fluid, and it's 80/90. I don't think I even really need both of these. I just had these laying around. So I'm gonna use this pump that I have here in the back.
That's not mine.
And just top it off. And you basically just fill this up with transmission fluid all the way to the brim until it starts leaking out of the fill hole. There we go. So you see that start to drip right there. Let me just do a couple more pumps just to make sure, and I think that should be enough. We're pretty much done here. I'm just now letting the engine run so that it sucks up all the oil that's in the bottom of the block. And after a couple minutes, I'm gonna shut the engine off, check the level again, and then top it off. Maybe about 1/2 quart. That should be enough to get this on a pretty good level. So here we have the last thing on the list to install. And I kind of did like a janky wiring job here. I removed and replaced the original ground strap here with a different cord coming from the body, and one of those terminals goes to the box here that I got. On the other end of that goes to the negative terminal, and then there's 2 smaller wires on the solenoid relay thing that go back into the battery. And what that does is has this key fob remote thing, which this box comes with 2 of them. If I was to click on and off, you can actually hear it click. And that basically turns on and off the connection circuit between the battery and the body. So if you were to look at this light here, for example, or even the ignition. So I'm going to turn this on. Nothing there. I probably drive this Squareback maybe once, twice a week. I usually unhook the battery every time I park it, so it's kind of a hassle doing that every single time. Now I can just do it remotely. So now with everything done, I should be all good. I'm gonna go ahead and close the engine lid, close the hatch, and take this Squareback out for a drive.
Mr. Powers. Quickly. Quickly, come on now, let's go.